All right. Welcome back to Black Medium, everybody. I'm your host, Gold Will, and here's my co-host.
With your boy Electronic Jack, aka Linwood Storm, aka the Mac with the facts of Black Grindhouse.
He's disappearing into the background, so. All right. And then we have a few guests today. We have right here Mr. SC King.
How y'all doing?
There we
What's
go.
up?
How you doing, man? And then we have Malachi Bailey.
Hello, people.
How's it going?
You know what you look like? You look like the guy from American Gods, the Anansi.
Who?
Oh, Orlando Jones?
Orlando Jones?
Yeah.
Who,
I
me?
What the fuck was that? And then Mr. Brian Lambert. How are you doing, sir?
How's it going? I mean, I don't look like the guy from American
No,
Gods, but I
not
guess
you,
I'm
the other
okay.
dude. No, not you, the other dude with the
Malachi or Steven?
Steven. That
No, I get that a lot, actually.
the only reason why I didn't say
I'm
his
sorry,
name
Malachi.
because I wanted to ask before the podcast whether it was Steven or Stefan, and we already did the whole Darren Duran thing. I didn't want that.
It's Steven. I totally meant to. Here we go. I'll actually, because these hoes don't even know me as Steven. They can call me SC King, but I'll update that. Here we go.
Is that Cardi B on the shirt? Who's the model? Who's the
It's a good
Instagram
question.
model?
There we go. Now I'm SC King. I
There we go.
am.
Oh, there
I
you
am not. I'm not sure. It was a cheap shirt from Foot Locker,
Oh.
and I'll never know. I'll never know who she is.
I like her.
Oh shit.
I'm a fan.
She's the girl of our dreams.
Right.
She is.
All right. So we're gonna be.
Malachi, though.
All right. Today's topic is gonna be Black creativity, and we have a ton of Black creators in here. I think all of us are actually creatives of different sorts.
You're a creator?
How about that? There we go. Yeah, I'm a creator of content.
Don't make me say it. Don't make me say it.
The Toyota incident will never die, nor will it live.
Mhm.
All right, so just how about we just start with a little bit of introductions into everybody's fields of work. Let's start with you, SC. What are you working on? What is your artistry field?
I'm an entertainer. Like I was. I grew up doing stage musicals and plays, barbershop. I was in band in high school, Shakespeare, all that noise. And I kind of abandoned that after high school for a while. I joined the band, and I did that for several years. And then I realized what I really wanted to do was make content for the screen, as well as stuff for stage. But screen, it's funny because right now I'm writing a musical that takes place inside the world of the show that I'm currently writing. It's a sci-fi show.
Right.
My dad raised me on Star Trek and Star Wars. And
Hey,
with most-
same here.
Yep.
It was,
I think all of us.
Deep Space Nine, and I with most of the shows that we watched, because sci-fi has been better to us than fantasy ever has. But my dad was always asking with different shows. He's like, "Man, where's all the Black people?" And we're living in a time when there's no excuse for Black creators not to be creating because, like, the floor is open, and with all of the white guilt going on right now in the media,
Got to take advantage of that.
Yeah,
You know, there's a marketing opportunity.
right? I get a friend. He's my friend Bill Butts. He's a voice actor for Funimation, and he only ever gets to audition for Black characters. And he's tried multiple times to audition for other kinds of characters, and he's always denied. But then all of a sudden, after George Floyd, these same companies were like, "Hey, if we were looking for Black voice actors." He's like, "Oh yeah, I see." First of all, fuck you. But second of all, I'll take that money. And so,
Right.
know,
The job's a job, I guess.
But the characters they'll be giving you as a Black voice actor are whack. Speaking as a Black voice actor, they're just stereotypical bullshit.
It's sad, but that also the Japanese, when it comes to like anime and how Japanese view Black people versus honestly sometimes even just regular cartoons. But I realize you can complain about it all day long, or you can be the change. And so I'm making a sci-fi show right now called 300 Days to Mars. I started it in quarantine. I built a spaceship into my closet to be able to film.
Nice.
during quarantine. And basically, it started off just I'm filming in my ship, and I will be talking with other people who could film from anywhere. And basically, when we're communicating, they'll just pop up inside the screen. And it got to where it's a little bit more safe to film outdoors in controlled environments. And so now we had 3 episodes deep. Then we just made our first film, 300 Days Tomorrow, Zero Gravity. But my biggest thing is to showcase minorities. Definitely, there's a lot of black faces that appear. Because when I put out a casting call and white people just like flood my DMs, and it's like, that's great, you know, I'll make a place for you, but also
They give me an extra.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, you guys will have a place. Obviously, there's white people in the galaxy in the future. I believe this will exist, but I'm very much creating content to showcase minorities. Like the alien on top of my ship in the show, that's a Latina girl. There's a Eastern Indian character who's coming in. Like a lot of just I could tell by the way that people were auditioning or not auditioning that when you don't see yourself reflected, you don't see yourself in that place. So I started, they'd be on my sets and they'd be like, man, there's a lot of diversity here. I'm like, yeah, that's what the world looks like. And then a lot of black actors or aspiring actors like, hey, I saw your show and that looks really cool. Is there a way that maybe I could try to audition? And I'm like, this is what I want. Like it's a beautiful thing to see people who didn't have that confidence before see other black faces like in space in, post-apocalyptic settings. Like a lot of it takes place on Earth, which is basically in my future, it's like a wasteland. And my favorite movie of all time is Mad Max Fury Road, but there's only one very light-skinned black person in that movie. And
wait, there was a black person in that movie?
White passing.
Wasn't Zoe in there? Zoe was in there, right?
Oh,
Zoe
that's right.
Kravitz, right?
Yeah.
She's one of the wives. But it's, I mean, with the color grading, she's the same shade as everybody else. And it's like, you're trying to tell me in a desert future, there's no black people in your desert future? Like, we are made.
No, we have our own Wakanda.
Right, we fucked off somewhere else. We made our own place.
We're like, look, this is what y'all white folks did.
Y'all didn't give us equality for like 500 years. We fuck it.
No, we're in Akon City. We're living in Akon City right now.
Akon City.
Akon's out here building real Wakanda. Yeah, no, and it's so, yeah, and that's what I'm about right now. And we're working on chapter 2. It's bigger for a production with no budget. It's been going incredibly well. There's a lot of great creatives who are working with me on it, and yeah. I mean, once again, it's all about being the change. And I love that we live in a time when black nerds will own up to it. Like, I remember growing up, in middle school, and there were some black kids who would admit they watch anime, but we were all like at the back table, and we were talking about Power Levels, Dragon Ball, and stuff like that. And now black people have claimed so much of like nerddom, and I'm not even trying to gatekeep. I'm like, this is beautiful that you guys, there was a point in time when Steve Urkel was the only nerd representation. I loved him.
Right. Super whack. Absolutely.
I think we all fuck with Myra though. Come on.
We did.
Oh, heavy.
that was my first crush back then. Okay. So yeah, that was SC. Let's Malachi, go ahead. I know you're here with Brian Lambert, so go ahead. Y'all both want to introduce yourselves. Malachi, you go first. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. The project you're working on. How do you feel?
Of course. So, as you know, my name is Malachi Bailey. I am a unapologetic blurred. Much like SC said, we were always there. I was one of the few who claimed it when I was probably grade school. I am a huge X-Men fanatic. Most of you guys already know that.
Storm. Yep.
Storm is life personified. She's probably my favorite superhero, like hands down. And, I was very excited when she married Black Panther back in 2006. And I got pissed off when they divorced in 2012. And then they reconciled again in 2017. And now they're on the outs again, but whatever. So, my love for comic books, it actually made it possible for me to write my first book called Her that I released in 2016. Then I re-released it last year. And, luckily for me, that opened the door for me working alongside Brian for our company, Wingless Entertainment slash Wingless Comics, for the Justice uh, Kickstarter that we started and finished back in June and July. So, it's good to claim your identity. It's good to claim your space. It's good to show the world who you are. So I'm here for it.
Awesome. And Ron?
Well, Malachi gave a great introduction of, I guess, who we are. But
Mhm.
Brian Lambert, I started Wingless Comics this year, which spun out of Wingless Entertainment, which is a multimedia group, basically animation, comics, novels, cartoons, whatever we can kind of dip our hands into in a quality fashion. So having put out a novel, actually Malachi and I both put out novels in 2016. We didn't know each other at the time. It just, happenstance. We both released our first novels that year.
Mhm.
I released my first mini comic in 2019, and then 2020, kind of hit the ground running. Got some good people behind me, got a good team with me, and Justice, issue 1 on Kickstarter was an amazing success for all of us, and set the stage for what we want to do now. And kind of moving forward into some of the things that we have coming up, even as early as October, we've got some things coming to Kickstarter again. So it's been a good journey so far.
And is that what's on your background there? You got a preview? What you guys got
Yeah,
for us?
you know what? Like I said, you guys get the first little sneak peek here of two of our mainstays, two of the three of our mainstays. So if you're looking at Malachi as well, you've got her up there.
Mhm.
You've also got Justice and Caliburn behind me. So we've been saying for months actually that Nightfall is coming.
Oh.
So what you're looking at behind me, excuse me,
Mhm.
is the Wingless Comics cover for Nightfall issue 1 that will debut on Kickstarter on October 16th.
Oh, okay. And what's the basic synopsis? Is it going to be a badass superhero
So,
team up?
so yes, but I like to call it more, let's go nerd, man. This is more of an Extinction Agenda, type, that kind of vibe, as opposed to like your high and mighty Justice League that how it's going to end, and it's just so
Mhm.
everybody can handshake. I feel like this is more grounded. This is more true to the characters. We're meeting with the the Wingverse characters are meeting with characters from Constant Hustle. Avery the Astonishing is going to be featured part of the crossover. 2 characters from Concept Moon Studios are going to be in, Sakari and Prime. There's going to be a slew and a host of cameos. This is going to be an event that goes throughout the year. It's 5 parts. We're going to be releasing it starting obviously at the end of 2020 and going all the way through up to 2021. We've got some really good surprises for you. We're going to debut a couple new Wingless Comics characters as well, heroes and villains. It's going to be chock full of surprises and great images for everybody.
Oh, you guys got a lot going on there. I love it. I love the creative process there. And George, how's your motion video going? How are you
Motion
doing?
video. Do you
sorry.
even remember what I'm working on? Look, just ask me something specific because I'm working on so many projects. I've already announced the Mad Gods graphic novel, which deals
Right.
with it's pretty much a small one-shot anthological, anthology. My bad.
Anthology. Yeah.
Anthology comic that goes over the many characters of my universe.
Mhm.
Then you have the 2 animated shorts that will be coming out. They're pretty much just drafts of what I would like to expand into an animated miniseries.
Oh.
And yeah, aside from the 3 screenplays for indie films that I've already developed, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I really have so much. I already announced the music that I've been doing. I'm also working on the podcast as well.
Right.
So yeah.
When are you gonna invite me back?
Invite you back where? On the
To
podcast?
podcast. I've been left out in the dark.
I'm gonna invite you and your dad onto the podcast when I get to it.
Never mind. All right.
But one thing, thank you for interrupting me, by the way. But one thing I would like to do with Game Cargo is just I love multiverses, but I also enjoy creating layers. So of course you already know the Earth 3/12 layer, which has the Mad Gods characters. I want to have a drive-in universe layer where you have certain films and certain creations that characters within the Earth 3/12 watch. And then of course you have the it's pretty much the fourth wall universe, so I can work on certain projects that are more personal to me, such as I have the comic strip that's coming out, the Gamer Day comic strip. You're kind of familiar with how I did the Gamer Day back in the day, but I'll begin with some artists on that.
Okay.
And yeah, I am working on a short story. I may branch off into doing a video game based on it, but we got the whole back and forth on the competition.
Oh yeah,
That, so
don't worry, my short story will be
I'm not gonna it's crazy. So
yeah,
I can't really spoil certain pieces of it without, explaining it in further detail. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Glad to know your creative process is still going. It honestly, that's like one of the more important parts
it's pretty sporadic
creating. Right. And well, I was gonna ask everybody. So we all make media here in different ways, and of course, this is Black creativity. Before I go into asking this next question, I want to ask, what's your creative process? How do y'all go about making what you make? Do you draft it out, or do you just spaghetti your thoughts on a notepad and just try and figure it out from there? I know a lot of people who did that part. I know I did that when I was younger. But like, how do y'all come up with what you come up with? I'm gonna go with
random.
SC.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go with SC first. Like, I'm just going counterclockwise from here. So how do you come up with what you come up with?
Man, 300 Days to Mars popped out of nowhere. We were working on our first feature film right before coronavirus hit, and we finished day one of filming, and then everything got shut down the next day, and our entire production, which hinged on this building we no longer had access to, had to get shut down. We spent, $2,000 making costumes and all these different things, and it starred my niece, who was already growing, and now I got to rewrite it for like a high school girl because it's different, high school from middle school. And so I was in like a creative, like I have to be making something.
Right.
And,
God, I know that feeling.
So it was, this is different than anything else I've ever done. I was just like, I'm going to make something. I contacted a friend of mine that I hadn't worked with her yet. I was like, hey, you want to make some skits together and some shorts just while we're in quarantine? She's like, yeah. I wrote a couple, and we were going to do it. And then the next day I was like, hold on. I'm thinking small, like skits is for the birds. What if I made a show, would you play an alien? And she was like, oh, sure. And so
you had like this scatter shot approach, just like, you know what? It's going to be a skit. Then it's definitely going to be a show. It's probably going to be a movie next.
Yeah, it exploded within the course of a month. It was meant to be something small and chill. 2 months later, we're making this hour-long film to go along with 3 episodes. And now that I saw where it was going, we had our debut on my birthday last week, and so now I've actually mapped out the next 8 episodes. And now I'm now that I have an idea, because it was very
right.
It was very loose the first time around, and now I'm like, this is the potential. Now it's going. Now it can't be stopped. Now it has a fan base. Okay, let's actually plan out this show and make something, make a little masterpiece. And so it did start as this an idea. I'm like, people
a little bit.
Yeah,
sporadic. Okay. Malachi, what's your creative process like? How do you draft it out, or are you more sporadic in your approach?
I wish I could be sporadic, but I'm just not. I'm a creature of habit, and since I've been writing now for the better part of 20 years, it works for me to plot it out. I need to have my notes so I can refer back to it. Brian can tell you that, I try to stay within, the frame, but of course, we don't want it to be the only thing that we refer back to. We have
Right.
to let things grow, organically or naturally. So um, for me, I like to at least have that approach. Now with us being in this annoying as hell a pandemic,
Oh
we
man.
have, it's, strangely enough, I think it works best for, our community, because now we can get our projects out there, because, if we're writing comic books or whatever, DC and Marvel, they were delayed for what, 3 months?
Oh my God. Diamond Distribution went down.
Yeah.
DC went and just killed
Don't
off
get them
so many.
started on DC Comics.
I
Oh, don't get me started on DC.
I've given up my religion to DC,
I'm still
unfortunately.
trying to get them to watch the new Superman movie that just came out.
And that's sad. I'm a hardcore Superman fan, and I can't bring myself to do it. There's a
Yeah,
new one. Yeah, it's a new one. It's like it looks like Archer or whatever, like the animation style.
I want to pass.
Yeah, I'm just like,
I mean, it's nothing special, but it's like if you're a diehard Superman fan, I'd recommend it. For me,
I'm a
it
Marvel
was.
fanatic, so I'm like, my
yeah.
eyes
Oh, see, I
glazed
grew
over.
up a Marvel
I mean,
fan, and then I kind of transitioned to DC, and
oh,
then it was all
yeah.
about the indie comic books.
That's kind of where I was. I grew up Marvel fan. Then I had the Spider-Man and Venom action figures. Then
Mm,
I went to DC because
There
Superman
it
and
is.
Flash are OP. And then I was like, wow, these comics are really starting to suck. I mean, I read all of New 52 Superman, and I was just like, this is depressing.
that's
That's when I
because they just
stopped.
won't let characters die.
That's when I stopped. I
Yeah,
read Green Arrow, and it
yeah,
was so horrible, and I wanted to hurt myself, so I stopped.
yeah. I was like, this era is just
Oh,
awful.
it was so bad.
Rebirth was
Everything was
so
good.
good. Yeah, like Rebirth was so good, and then they decided to destroy it. So I was like, okay, well,
I want to stick to Marvel.
right,
Um, but yeah, but so those big name companies being delayed indefinitely, that was our time as Black creatives to shine.
right,
So luckily, working with Brian with Wingless, we've been able to plot out what we want to do for the next several years, in terms of marketing, in terms of storytelling, with the Kickstarter that we just completed.
right.
We were able to include our roster of heroes for this year. So doing things like that, it keeps me busy. It keeps me lifted, because otherwise, you watch the news
Hmm.
and you just keep on hearing these stories about, people still getting the coronavirus because they don't want to wear a fucking mask.
It's
And
the
then
easiest shit ever. It's like
it,
so
it,
fucking. How the
it's
fuck do
so
y'all?
easy.
And what's crazy is they do all this extra shit where they're like they're dressing up as William
Lingerie,
Wallace.
yeah.
Or I was like, this is my mask. I'm like, this shit takes way more effort than just putting on a face mask.
It's embarrassing, I have friends who are in other countries, and they'll just text me or they'll buzz me on Facebook, and they're like, so why does your country have an issue putting on the mask? And I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know what to tell you. I just I'm sorry, I just don't know what to tell you. But it's frustrating. It's
It
very
really is.
frustrating. But luckily we're able to, you know, keep on task with our projects. So
Yeah,
that's how I
stick to
keep
the
us,
outline.
yeah,
Right.
pretty much.
All right, Brian. What's your creative process like? Are you scattershot like me, or do you actually plan things
Uh,
out?
a little bit of both. I mean, if this was the '90s, I'd still be writing my little first ideas on receipts or any little piece of paper I could find, and then kind of putting them together and then making something. But when you start doing these big, quote unquote, big budget or long winded or far-seeing projects, for
Mhm.
me, you gotta have some kind of outline, some kind of roadmap.
Right.
Um, so while I don't necessarily um, plan out every single step, I know what my A and Z are. I've got to know what my A and Z are.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to miss characters. Otherwise, you're going to miss people. Otherwise, you're going to miss, little tidbits, Easter eggs, and all that kind of stuff. So while I scattershot in order to find my original, idea or whatever my original piece is, or whatever starts the story off, then I go into a more refined telling of it, for lack of better words.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of how I do. I'd kind of I do this work backwards actually style because I create the start and then the finish. And for me, I find it's a lot easier to connect events when you start from the ending. Like this person killed that person. Okay, why'd that happen? Okay, how'd that happen? And I felt like that's a more natural process for me personally, like where I just like work from the ending to the beginning. That way I just have everything. It's still kind of scattershot for me. Like I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. I'm like, oop, that's a new story. you know. And George, how's your style? I know you
Oh
plan
my
out a
God.
lot.
Okay, so
Here he goes.
how's my style from beginning to end?
Mm-hmm.
Usually starts off with me watching a bunch of movies, reading comic books, blah blah blah, and then I'm like, I could do this concept better, but then I wouldn't want to throw in this, and then I want to throw in that, and that's essentially how I created Black Hades Inn. When writing the screenplay, I was a huge fan of the first Oscar movie by Eli Roth,
Mm-hmm.
and I just hate how the second one came about. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my own version, but then I saw High Tension, which was a fantastic horror film, and the ending just sucked. And I'm like, okay, so now I know how I want my movie to end. And then I saw what was that one with the Hereditary, and certain elements of Hereditary I thought were ingenious, but the how it was planned, it just seems so okay, this had to happen or the whole plan will fail. And I'm like, well, you know what? I like the tension of it.
Right.
High tension. But so I kind of created Black Hades in to be a mix of what I wanted from all three of the movies, because all three of the movies had great concepts and they executed them to a certain degree. They executed them well to a certain degree, but I thought that I could do it better, and I could also add Black folks in it, and Black Hades in where the last 10 minutes would be them in hell to kind of showcase, hey, for Black folks, hell is on earth. And then what else? Well, is it? I'm an action nerd, so most of the movie is just them shooting through motherfuckers. So
Yeah, I had to talk you out of a couple bad ideas from that one.
Hey, look, the movie is for people like me. All right, you probably
Depraved.
expect some. You probably expect some kind of philosophical meaning to it, and I'm like, no, I wanted to showcase a Black love story through actual hell on earth. And then when they get down to the bottom of things, it's like, all right, so you were right, we're gonna have to do some. And I found myself actually writing about certain illnesses that I couldn't put a name to them, like borderline personality disorder. I was writing Mary Rose. I was writing a character who had borderline personality disorder, and I had no idea until someone pointed out, hey, this character has all the traits of this. And I'm like, oh, wow. So when the twist happens near the end, I'm like, okay, so this totally flips everything on its head.
Right.
But yeah, my creative process is just inspiration. I'm a bit sporadic. I'll have a bunch of Word documents on my laptops full of just summaries of things that I want to create. And then I'll get around to something that I feel, hey, it's possible right now, or hey, it's doable, or hey, I can start on this and then I can come back to that later,
Yeah, it sounds like my creative process of starting.
Yeah, but my creative process also involves going to the bathroom and brainstorming a lot with action figures. So
I mean, mine is just create a new project, create another new project. All right, now create another one. Maybe I'll go back to this one at some point. And
yeah, but as long as you're progressing throughout the projects, I don't think it's a bad
what is progress?
It's a bad way of completing tasks.
And actually, like you actually gave me the perfect segue to my next question. So now we're gonna get into your influences.
Oh boy, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah. So if you can name all of you, so who wants to go first? Anybody?
Well, what's the question? Ask the question first.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
right?
Oh no, I want to see who's willing to expose a little bit of their thinking.
I mean,
I
I'm
mean,
down.
influences. Do you mean like
I mean,
creators
influence,
or just
media, three
in
pieces of
general?
media or life experiences that influence you the most.
I think we're all influenced by life, but
Right. I'm saying like what in general. Like, let's go with three pieces of media, just to keep it simple. What
now,
three
three
pieces of
pieces of
media?
media. Are you talking about like genres? Or are you talking about like actual?
Anything, book, comic book, movies, TV show.
You gotta be very specific, bro.
What the hell?
I'll go first. I'll tackle this
Thank
one.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
like-
because I'm like,
Yeah.
wait. I have so many things.
I said three.
Yeah, right.
That's what,
You gotta pick them, right?
I know,
So,
but you didn't
um,
say your influences from movies or okay.
yeah, like
Media.
I want to give you my
whatever.
best influences. I don't. But go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead,
You
Brian.
got a ton, so I mean, you're not gonna give them your best. You can't. But
Yeah.
Well, I
so
put my influences
three,
on my sleeve. Ain't no problem.
2 or 3 that really impacted me. I actually had a teacher. So when I realized I was going to be a writer, I really wanted to do this was back in high school.
Mhm.
So I had always done some writing. I had, English. I've always excelled at that, but I wasn't like sure I wanted to be a writer until I was in a class. A guy named Mr. Sanders. He was like a 60-year-old white guy, really really cool. Belt always matched his shoes. Real kind of dapper guy. And I took his Shakespeare class. I took his Shakespeare class because this chick I wanted to get with took his Shakespeare class. So I was like, yo, I got to be in this Shakespeare class, right?
The best reason.
So, right. So we get maybe halfway through the class and we're reading a play. And he's like, you know what, Brian? He's like, it's Midsummer Night's Dream. And he's like, you know what, Brian? You'll be perfect as Bottom. I've never read the play before, so I don't know what he's talking about. But I'm like, okay, whatever. And he cast the girl as like Titania. And so it's like, oh man, like I get to, be romantic with this chick. I'm reading the book and I don't realize it till halfway through that like Bottom gets turned into an ass because he's so like cocky, kind of arrogant. Like it's, and I didn't realize what he was saying. And I'm like legit reading a line through it, right? We're doing the whole thing. And I look up at Mr. Sanders because at this point he realizes that I've finally realized what he was saying. And I look up and he's smiling at me and just laughing his ass off. And I was like, oh, okay, man. Okay. But it was like at that point that I realized that there were so many different ways to translate emotions. And with that Shakespearean play and with what he was doing, he was shining a light on me without really being a jerk about it. It was funny. It was humorous and he meant it in the best way possible. It's one of the comedies. It's not a tragedy. So he was saying like, hey man, this is you and this will be perfectly you. And I wanted to do that for other people.
Okay.
So that's a huge one for me. Second one, and I'm never going to do all of my influences, service because we've only got 3, but the next one, a big one is Tolkien. And not necessarily just for what he did. I mean, obviously he revolutionized fantasy. Almost everything that you get after him is derivative of what he did. Right. But at one point he wrote a letter to his editor and his publisher. And he had said in that letter, the reason that he wrote the Silmarillion and even part of Lord of the Rings is because England had no mythology. There was Norse mythology, there's Greek mythology, Celtic mythology, all these other things. But like England itself never had a mythology. And as I read that, it just really resonated with me as in terms of Black people, Black Americans don't have a mythology. There are folk tales. You can have John Henry, you can have these other things, but we don't have a mythology. Obviously, if you go back to Africa, there are tons of mythologies there, but as Black Americans, we didn't have that. And while I realized that even things that are written now, it's hard to call them mythologies. It's the same way Tolkien did for fantasy. So I wanted to do that, and that's what I tried to tackle in my first novel, to write a mythology and this high kind of fantasy for us to be able to look back on and say like, man, this was our mythology. This was us. We belong in this mythological space just as much as anybody else.
Okay.
As Black Americans.
I draw a lot from African mythology. Actually, the guy behind me right here is there's studying an African myth. There is one of them, I forget which region this is. I'm still reading it in my book. But is the belief that if you are strong enough, you actually have an animal form in which you can transform into. So I have an entire race of people who can transform into animals. So it's like their license to become a furry without
Yeah,
shame, without shame.
nice.
So, and what would you say is the last, like, another piece of media of your choice
Um,
that would greatly influence you? Just
you know,
general.
obviously music and music of all genres. I'll rarely get through a script or something without Hans Zimmer playing at some point. I'll rarely get through a script without Boys to Men, because obviously I grew up on that. Without Marvin Gaye, without, there's always some kind of music that's the backbone of whatever I'm writing. Even, to Jay-Z, to Eminem, to whomever, depending on what scene it is. So music, just like in our culture in general, music plays a humongous part in everything that I do.
Okay.
And your words have got to have a rhythm to them, and so does the story. So, you know,
So
like
how's the
the blanket of music is huge.
how's that Young Thug for you? Is it great?
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. Every time I want to write somebody on pills or drugs or
Don't
something,
get him
I throw on
started.
I throw on that
I'm still trying to get him listen to Pop
little
Smoke.
whomever,
Oh man, Pop Smoke. I'm not gonna listen to. I'm sorry.
Just try
I
it.
mean, he was all
I,
right. I mean, people are
I,
trying to give him legendary status, which is
well, I
super
didn't say
unfair, but
legendary
he was
status, but
cool.
I can
he's
bump
the
him.
king of New York.
It's the voice that I love. I like the grimy, DMX, Double M style voices.
He's
Man,
cool.
New York is dead. All right, SC. What three pieces of media would you say like describes you, influences you? Like,
Uh, I grew up watching musicals from like the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and so those were a lot of my heroes growing up. Just the triple threats, people who could do it all. They sang, they they dance, and so when I was a kid, I wasn't completely aware of how much basically all of Hollywood was taking from like they were taking our art and using it for themselves. They were taking our dance, taking the way that we sang, everything, just putting a white face on it. Not that they weren't really talented, but
right.
when I saw it was Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella with Brandy, and Whitney Houston. I remember when that came on TV and I recorded it, and it was the first time that I'd seen a musical like that with so many people of color. Victor Garber and Whoopi Goldberg have an Asian son, and no one's asking questions. It's just a musical, and it was okay for different. It was okay for Black people to exist in this fantasy world,
Yeah.
Right.
and to just be a part of it. Like they were just playing a part, and I must have watched that so many times. I even have a copy on VHS. I have two copies actually on VHS. Just to remind me of that moment when I saw, oh, I can do it too. I don't have to be a supporting character. I don't have to be, there's so much. I can love Lord of the Rings all day long, but it doesn't change the fact that the only brown people in Lord of the Rings movies come out of the ground and they're evil. I can enjoy, I can enjoy, Game of Thrones, but the
only Black people are pirates.
Exactly, they're pirates or slaves or savages.
Oh,
I
fuck.
can enjoy Chronicles of Narnia. My dad read me the whole Narnia series, but when I watch the movies, like, oh, there's a black centaur over here in the background. He exists. We exist in the background, and so seeing Brandy up there up front on the cover, seeing Whitney Houston as a fairy godmother, something I'd never seen growing up watching Disney, that really reset my world and made me believe, oh, I can do it too. I do belong there. I do belong in fantasy. I can be whatever.
I love it.
The second would be Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh yeah, give us the goods.
Once again, there's not a lot of people of color in there, but regardless, you make what you know. George Miller, he's in his 70s when he made the best Mad Max film, and what I believe is the best film. It's my favorite film, Mad Max Fury Road. I was so in awe of what I was beholding. There are so many practical effects in that film. They built so many cars. They did so many, there's CG where it has to be there. But the fact that a man who's near 80 years old can create a movie that essentially is just one long car chase. The whole film is a car chase. And at the same time, they're expressing, there are deep themes, they're talking about humanity. He was able to put so much, that movie is so full of character and so full of heart. Like, it could just be a dumb action film, but it's not. Like, I was like, are we really learning about characters? We're talking about humanity. We're talking about men and violence and how we treat women. We have all these things in this giant, bombastic, just loud, hyper
Crazy.
masculine energy action film. Where the lead character has a muzzle on his face for the first third of the movie. It's what they did with Furiosa. Just the whole shebang. And it made me realize, we create these rules and we're like, oh, everything's been done before. We're all kind of just regurgitating things that have been done. But, and to a point, I believe that is true.
Everything's a remix. At least I've been
I
told.
keep saying that.
It's all about how you remix it. I mean, once again, like, he'd already made 3 other Mad Max films, and this could have easily just been something. Like, it could have just been stuff, but he went out and made a masterpiece. It wasn't cynical. It needed to exist. I think it's so important for the history of cinema. And he was able to create something that felt new out of something very, very old. And so, that gave me hope as far as like crafting a world, making something important, utilizing every piece you have on the board. It was chess.
Crazy.
That's beautiful.
The final piece is just the entire discography of Lupe Fiasco.
Yep. Hey, I like him already.
Please don't.
What?
Hold on. The thing is, I can listen to a Lupe song like 10 years later and find something new that he placed in there. This man, the way that he constructs music and tells stories.
Miro is amazing.
He's not even confined by himself. The way that he constructs his albums, he's not worried about how it's going to be reviewed, what anyone's going to think about it, how it compares to his last piece. He's creating. But even when he made his pop album Lasers, it was still it was still much more layered and was actually about something compared to like the majority of, like, he had his fun, he did his thing for like the masses. He gave us his his McRib, and it still had nutrients.
Luckily, I mean, still, I couldn't do it with Lasers. I gave it my best shot.
I fault you not for it. It's not my favorite, but at the same time, I wasn't really angry about it. I love that he explores. I love that he tries. I love that he just does. Even a few weeks ago when he came out with the I think was it Dinosaurs? It's like 6 tracks. He's working with a couple of this couple other people. There's just so much inside of there. And I have Lupe on in the background. Like, Tetsuo and Youth was the album of the year in my opinion. It got me through a really difficult time. Right. When I was working late nights at this place, and my creativity felt like it was being stifled. I was, working to I was having health problems, working to just to keep my existence going. And at like 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm just playing Tetsuo and Youth, and the pictures that he's painting, the reassurance, the purpose, just all of it really. It made me realize that this was very much not the end, that I mattered, that I was heard, that I was represented,
right.
That I was seen, and so, I'll cut it off there. But yeah, those are the 3 things that I think about the most. I think a lot of those, they define
your creativity. Gotcha. Malachi, would just media in general, 3 pieces of media you would say complete you, like influence your creative process?
Okay, 3 things. I guess what started it off would be Marvel Comics. It made me realize that, stories have power.
Good choice.
And thank you. It's the best choice compared to DC. But anyway.
Hold on. Let's not get crazy.
Who hurt you?
A little crazy. But Marvel, they say that DC created the superhero, but Marvel, they made the superhero human. And that always stayed with me. It always kind of motivated me or encouraged me to do my own stories, build my own Marvel Comics type thing. So they played a big part in my, my creative process. And the second one, I guess, in terms of music, lately, and when I say lately, I mean within the last like 4 years, when it comes to like, my when it comes to writing the story, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this band, but they're called Nero.
Never heard of
Uh, and they actually, I first heard about them. They did like a commercial for like an Apple, like what was the Shuffle. So we're going back like 2011.
Whew.
And like the snippet of their song was called Promises, and it was so upbeat, it was so fun, and I loved it. So I started listening to more of the music, and when I was writing her, there was this one song they did. It's 17 minutes long, and it's called Symphony 2808, and I've actually written, action scenes to that particular song. It was that powerful, and like sometimes I'll post that song on my Facebook because that always gets me in a mood. Like that's the unofficial her theme song. So whenever it comes to Nero, like they have other songs that I really enjoyed, like Between Two Worlds is another favorite of mine that helps me get into like the creative spirit. So I enjoy that. Third, let's see. There was a movie that came out in 2002. It starred Meryl Streep, Nicole Kidman, and Julianne Moore, called The Hours. And it was about three women across time who were tied together by this one book called Mrs. Dalloway. And it was about how women like struggle, with their place in society, how they relate to one another, how they relate to man, how they relate to, just the world. And it all takes place in the span of one day. So when I first watched the movie, it was very heavy. They had a scene in the movie where the woman, Julianne Moore, is about to commit suicide. So she drops her son off, at the babysitter. It's in the 50s, so she's driving her little car to the local hotel, and she tells the guy at the front desk, please don't disturb me. And she's about to take pills, so she's laying in the bed, and you see all the water rushing in, and it just kind of like drowns her, and then she realizes later on that she doesn't want to die because she's also pregnant. So when she realizes that she has to give this baby a chance, that's when the water it recedes back under the bed. So imagery like that, it was
surreal.
very surreal, and it
Yeah.
was jogging my own imagination. And then back in 2008 when my mom passed, I watched the movie again, and it had such a deeper, more profound level to it.
Right.
So that soundtrack actually is always played in the back of my head. So those three things are probably like the biggest things that keep me like with a pen in my hand.
They drive you. Yeah, definitely. Movies with surreal imagery really does like impact the mind a lot. I remember a lot of Courage the Cowardly Dog is a weird series, but that had surreal imagery out the ass.
Creepy.
There was a lot of shit.
It was
that
nightmare
wild.
inducing.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird, like the Violin Girl was the first time I got scared by a cartoon. I was just like, wait, what the fuck? I still can't watch that sequence.
I gotta watch it now because I'm curious.
It's just annoying. Like this, see her turn around with her face bulging out like Cabal in Mortal Kombat. I know those sequences. George, what are your three?
Okay, so you already know the first one.
But please go ahead and tell the rest of us.
No, please. Yeah, I want you to say it.
I don't know it off the top of my
Then
head.
you don't know me well. Movies, film, cinema.
I already know it's
Love it.
movies. Do you have a specific movie? Do you have a specific movie cinema file? Like
I don't have
know
a
you said
specific
Hostel.
movie, but I do have a specific director, John Woo.
Oh.
I went through a bit of a John Woo phase where I was always watching anything that I could get my hands on from him. The Better Tomorrow series, 1 and 2, Hard Boiled, The Killer, even some of the underground releases, such as Just Heroes. I believe that's what it's called. But I just loved how his movies portrayed masculinity and just the value of two men and how they can be brothers throughout turmoil.
Okay.
So I definitely, that was definitely an influence on myself as a writer and how I was encouraged to bring more humanity and personal experiences onto my work. So that's why I have my blog and I have my I'm pretty expressive on my podcast. So I feel like if I can't be myself, then I can't be true. And that's sort of what I project onto Ralph Connors, who is like a I refer to him as a black Xiao Yu Fat, but really he's just me with two guns. But
Word.
just the fact that I could create black characters that could fight the system when not a lot of other people are. And I'm not saying that we aren't doing things, but I'm saying whenever, here's a good example.
Oh.
We see these videos of cops killing black folks all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love creating characters who can actually fight back. Oh, you wanna kill this innocent black person? Well, I got a black hero or black vigilante who will kill that cop without any problem. So I just love just writing instances such as that and giving power to even if it's just as Charles, the Professor Woods pointed out, even if it's just writing in theaters, I want to encourage that because that's a start. When Black Panther came out, you saw black folks dressing up as if they were from Wakanda. I want that kind of energy because you can't easily strip that away. Now there's a frame of reference. A good example, another good example is how you had Birth of a Nation. When Birth of a Nation came out, white supremacists were all over that, and that started the KKK up again. Well, we can do the same thing with black folks. So with movies, I saw it as an opportunity to not only share intimate moments about my life and my experiences, but craft certain stories around them. Black Hades Inn is a very personal screenplay, and I'm not going to share why it is, but there's a lot that happens in it that I just put bits and pieces of what happened to my life in it. Same thing
Right.
with Ralph Connor's Time Spirit and Marcus Greco Silverwing. They're just bits and pieces, and I just, okay, this is going to be a sci-fi story. This is going to be a horror story. And
Right.
then I put all the other influences that I gather from what I want to create into them. So yeah, movies is definitely number one.
Oh yeah.
Number two, ah,
I know you want to say Onyx in music.
no, I'll say hip hop because I'm a huge hip hop nerd, but I would consider hip hop. It's an influence in a sense of I love writing, so I respect the lyrical aspect of hip hop, and when I just look at how people craft stories with music, it's essentially poetry on a beat. And
Yeah.
that inspires a lot of my sequences when I'm writing fight scenes or shootout scenes. The best scenes, just in movies in general, is when sometimes there's no sound at all. Sometimes the sound is minimal, but it's the scene is flowing along to the music,
Right.
beat by beat. So music is definitely an inspiration when I'm writing. I'm always listening to music. When I want to craft maybe a love scene, I'll listen to some Charlie Wilson or Isley Brothers. Uh, Number three, wow, because you're saying media.
Yeah. Just
I want
media.
okay.
A book.
I guess because I was gonna put do dreams count?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll say dreams. I have my dream journal right next to me. Well, it's over there on my other desk. But I keep a dream journal with me. And one thing I wish it'll become a reality at some point. I know the Japanese are kind of sort of working on it, but the ability to record dreams, because I'll have such vivid dreams. I take zinc and certain supplements that allow me to have very vivid dreams. And when I wake up, I'll remember those. I'll remember the imagery and I'll write them down in the dream journal. And I'll use that to like certain locations I'll put into my story, certain events that happen, even if they don't make sense. I feel like I can craft something around them.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think
Dreams
dreams.
are better. Yeah, dreams would be like that. Actually, I don't want some of my dreams to be
No,
anywhere.
but that's the thing. I feel like dreams will tell you a very dreams will tell you something about yourself that you don't probably want to face, you know. So I feel that's important to note, and if you can use that in a story to connect with other people emotionally, then by all means. I've had some very grim nightmares and some
Yikes.
very disturbing imagery that I'm like, well, if I
Right.
put this in the story, you know, I'm so be it. You know,
Right.
people are gonna share the nightmare with me.
Don't run from it. You know,
If
run
it, if it,
into it.
if it scares me, it's gonna scare them. Is essentially what I'm saying.
Right. At least thematically. All right. I mean, for me personally, I know what media has mostly influenced me. Like the most is video games. Video games since I could hold the controller. Since 4 years old, I've been playing on the original Nintendo before I put water in the cartridges and made it smoke. Uh, I don't. I've been playing fighting games, what you call it, adventure games, shooter games. A lot of those coming up, and a lot of my favorite experiences are just from games in general. And a lot of them were Super Mario World is my favorite game of all time. Uh, it's an absolutely fun game that I could go back to even now and just enjoy myself.
You said World?
Super Mario World, yeah, the
Okay,
original.
cool. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
The one for Super Nintendo, right?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That game is ridiculous.
I agree. Just making sure. I was like, yeah, World?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
Super
remember
Mario.
it being extremely difficult for some reson.
Once you get the cape, it's an absolutely trivial game. But but either way, I mean, I still enjoy that. And a lot of the stuff, Final Fantasy VIII is my favorite Final Fantasy. I really enjoyed the character writing in that game. It was the first game where I actually felt like I was connecting with the characters. And these types of experiences, like I didn't even know, like I think Final Fantasy VIII was the first time I really connected with a story in a game, like seriously. You know, even though it's story compared to things like Seven, a lot of people would probably agree Seven is probably the better story or whatnot. I felt myself getting more connected with the stories, and it really led to a lot of the focus on character writing that I try to do. Uh, because at the end of the day, a lot of us remember the characters in stories, even if the movie is ass or the book is ass. There's at least one character you like in this story. A lot of us, I think the first couple X-Men's weren't very good, the X-Men movies. But,
You didn't like the X-Men movies?
I thought 2 was good, 1 was okay, 3, uh,
I mean, I thought they were just all dumb fun movies. So even the third one, I enjoyed to an extent.
the Juggernaut, bitch. He was in it.
Apparently that movie was hacked. So
I see. I don't want to see the full. I don't want to see the Snyder cut. But
we're not good. Okay. I do. We are not going to have any Zack Snyder slander on this cast right now.
Shut the hell up. But yeah, I learned a lot of what I approach in my writing is character writing. Like, at a lot of at the end of the day, there's moments, but moments aren't going to mean anything without the characters to care for. Like, my friends tried to get me into Berserk. Any of y'all read Berserk?
I've seen like an episode.
On anime.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna.
Yeah, you trashed that manga. I don't.
Oh
get
yeah,
why, because the anime. Well, I only saw one anime. I had it on DVD that I got from the Half Price Bookstore. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was, about its speed.
I thought Berserk was terrible. I just didn't like it. I'm gonna be that guy. I'm probably gonna get a lot of lashings on the internet for that. But I didn't like Berserk because I didn't like any of the characters. And a lot of my roommates were talking up the Eclipse a lot, and I read like the volumes were like 8, 9, like, I don't know how fucking long, 100 pages, right? And then we finally get to the Eclipse, and everybody gets fucking bodied, and I'm just like, and okay, alrighty then. I guess that one's dead. That one's dead. I didn't like that one either. And I was like, y'all hype this shit up for this? And I was like, oh, but what about Poor Guts? What about Poor Guts? I don't like Guts either.
I feel like you're too nice of a person to relate to certain characters.
No, Guts doesn't have a fucking character. Anyways.
Guts is a place for like young, for like 15-year-old boys to insert themselves.
Right.
He's like Bella from Twilight. Honestly, he is a terrible person to insert yourself into.
Yeah, because your personality traits exist, his don't. That's what I mean. Like, so, and then like there's what other things influence me? Music. I'm a big hip hop fan. I've been hip hop.
No animation.
I didn't go to number 3 yet, so
I thought, okay, my bad. I thought that was number 3. Okay, you keep going on and on and on. I'm like, okay.
I know you not. Anyways, I'm a big hip hop fan. I've been hip hop since day one, and actually, a lot of something that inspires me more or less is lyrical storytelling. Things like Nas, Ghostface, Slick Rick. People who have stories to tell are generally like really cool in hip hop because you make a story to a beat and you make it interesting. Something like Kendrick Lamar's Pimp Butterfly, Rhapsody.
Eminem.
I mean, Eminem did a lot of storytelling too. 97, Bonnie and Clyde. You know, a song where he's talking about or whispering to his daughter about he slit her mother's throat. He's like, yeah, we're just going to bury her in the water, daughter.
Yes.
You know, it's the grimiest shit. But the thing is, I've always been attracted to that type of grimy shit. Like, you know, something really dark and gory. Like, I don't know why.
But you didn't like Guts, though? What? Guts?
I don't like Guts because he doesn't have a character. Like, that's just he is literally just that sword he carries.
It's true. It's so true.
No, it definitely is. But like, if you're like, oh man, I like dark and grimy Eminem, but then Guts is a dude who gets chased by demons all the time because he's basically in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he's a big meathead. And you're like, nah, I don't like that. Like, what?
I think, yeah, it's just that
he's Eminem with a sword. he's sitting out there like, I'm gonna kill you. Why? Because I'm angry.
Because I'm a douchebag. Because I'm a villain.
The same person. Like,
yeah, I mean, you know, you're not even wrong. I gotta put that up as a tweet. I don't know how that's gonna be received.
You're gonna tag Duran in it?
I'm actually going to do that. And then the final thing is animation. Yes, he spoiled that, but animation has been.
Well, I know you more than you know yourself, so.
That's creepy. Do you stalk me?
Yes.
This cast is over. All right, everybody. No, what'd you call it? I think animation, it is a really, really gorgeous art form, both in 2D and with the explosion of 3D animation. After Finding Nemo, I mean, Pixar knocks it out the park pretty much every time they make a movie. But there's other animation studios like Sony Pictures Animation. They make Minions, if I'm remembering correctly, and Despicable Me. Claws was a really good-looking film.
I just want some more adult shit, man.
Man, that shit doesn't exist. But what you call it?
Some Ralph Bakshi shit.
I wish more people were like Ralph Bakshi. But animation, as I mentioned, what you call it? Courage the Cowardly Dog earlier. That was a show that to me, it still blows my mind how much shit they got away with in that show. Like in the 90s. It was a show inspired by a lot of horror elements, and you could tell because Courage is screaming and going inside out, and they draw detailed guts and whatnot, eyes popping out. And I'm just like,
Danny Phantom let a Clockwork Orange poster slip. So,
I mean,
Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy crossed a lot of lines.
Well, Ren and Stimpy was full blown adult.
Right.
I think the only really tame kids adult show was Johnny Bravo. All right.
Yeah.
And the way they drew women on Johnny Bravo, I'm like, okay.
I mean, it was about a serial sexual harasser who got his ass whooped.
But you could never have that kind of show today.
No.
Eon Flux. Don't forget her.
Oh, don't get me started, Eon Flux.
Oh, Aeon Flux.
Don't get me started.
That was a
it's Aeon?
filthy delicious cartoon.
I love it. Like, and animation is such a flexible medium, and what you can do with just these 2D drawings is just fantastic. And I mean, like, I love it when games go back to the 2D style, like Streets of Rage 4. I recently just played that and completed that with Duran. He's bad.
Wait,
tell
is
him.
that an online game?
I mean, you could play it online.
Okay.
He's bad, and I said it. You could tell him I said it. But yeah,
He gonna
that
beat
has
you.
a.
He gonna whoop your ass.
I wish you would. I'm daring you right now, Duran. Let's go.
I do have to say I have an 8:30. Sorry, I'm constantly
Oh yeah.
constantly in the state of flex moving. So in about 5 I will have to bounce for another meeting. It's
Okay, I got you.
chaos.
Gotcha. Okay, I just want to get to the closer here, the last question here. All right, so we all have described our different creative processes, what influenced us. Now, just as a general question, considering that the majority of media is around us is designed white, right? Like, they're designed by white people, like even Black Panther was created by a white person, whatnot.
You gonna really trash Jack Kirby like that?
I'm not going to trash him. I'm just saying, he wasn't black, right? Like, at the end of the day. So now let's look at it from the wider landscape, right? How do you see designing media? Do you think that the Black POV or just the Black drive in general, creativity-wise, is different from everybody else's POV? How do you see it as, from your POV, how do you see it's different from white POV, Mexican POV? What do you define as Black creativity? SC, you go first, since you gotta bounce it a little bit. What do you see as? Do you see yourself as? Yeah, do you see yourself as creatively different from white people? Do you see your creativity just about the same? Like, how would you see it?
No, because it comes from your experiences. You look at something like Black creativity comes from Black experience. It's not just about creating a Black character. It's funny, Todd McFarlane says that he feels like he is Spawn. He relates to Spawn. And I love, I love McFarlane. That's fine. But it's like, so you're an undead Black assassin, McFarlane? Is that what?
Hell yeah! Shit, who wouldn't want to be that?
Is that your experience? Have you lived that life?
What white person didn't want to be Shaft?
You're not wrong. I mean,
no, and I, and I will forever love him for bringing Spawn, into my life because I love the character. I've cosplayed the character.
right.
I eagerly await, I hope that the Jamie Foxx movie is good if it ever gets made, but Black creativity comes from a Black place, from a Black experience.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that it has to be some kind of like stereotype, but you look at what the things that Issa Rae has created, the things that Jordan Peele has created, these phenomenal entertainments that come from a very Black place. There's something that everybody can enjoy, but these are things that a white creator could not make.
Like Get Out, he definitely could not make Get Out.
Yeah, Get Out would have been watered down.
They would have taken out all the racial subtext. Right.
So like what I create, even if it's, once again, it's things that everybody could enjoy, but my experience, it's not what Tim Burton's making, it's or Wes Anderson, you make what you know. And my experience, even if what I create is something everybody can enjoy, my voice, my experiences are crafting a world that that a white creator would not be able to do. And that's totally okay, because it's these different experiences that make life worth enjoying and watching. But I'm so glad that Black creatives have this platform right now and that we have the stage. Like, it is ripe for, there will never again be a time when we don't have
our foot in the door, basically.
Yeah,
like I'm actually glad that we're in this period right now that a lot of Black creators are pushing themselves forward, because a lot of the spotlight is on us right now for an unfortunate set of circumstances. We got a pandemic that's killing Black people faster, and also a police pandemic. But it is also a time for us to take advantage of this and put a more positive spin and try to show the other side of Black life, other than the protests and in the march. And like, what are we in our day-to-day life? What do we think? That's how I feel about it, looking at it. Malachi, what do you think? What would you define as Black creativity? Do you see yourself as similar to other writers in your field that you'd say non-Black, uh, or do you feel as though your creativity comes from a different place? How would you define Black creativity?
I think what comes to mind when you are compared to a white creator,
Oh man.
we go back to the Jim Crow era, and they were big on equal but separate.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to being a Black creator, the main difference would be our art. It comes from a place of pain,
Mm-hmm.
um, a place of shared pain, and since we were as a people, ground by systematic racism and any and every type of oppression, something good would have to come out of it. At least in terms of us trying to get our art out there. Our art, it does reflect Black experience. Black experiences have often been negative, unfortunately.
Right.
Um, so when we share it amongst ourselves, and when that's shared, to a bigger platform, I wouldn't say it dilutes the pain of it, but now we're being seen. It's representation now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at some of the old, photography, there's this old picture of a slave. You see his back, and it's covered in the scars from the whip. And they had that compared to a photograph that was taken, I guess, recently, and they replaced the scars with the bullet holes. That's Black pain. It's Black pain put on display, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also inherently Black art. It's a part of who we are, which is something that's very different from white creators. You know, Also, we create and they've copied. There've been a lot of,
Oh.
if you remember Dreamgirls, the one that came
Yeah.
out in 2000.
Right.
Remember how they took the song and they chopped it up and they just repackaged it like it was theirs, and that was
Oh
just
yeah.
one of many, 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 many examples. Um,
Oh yeah. Elvis was the originator of that bullshit.
yeah,
Yeah, we about to run up on him and his impersonators.
that too.
I
That's
don't
what
think Elvis was the originator. What's
I know
that girl?
it's further than
What's
that.
that girl that Betty Boop copied that off of, and then they were like, "No, we didn't copy off of you." Or rather, they were like, "You
They took
got your
the
style
ball.
from that Black woman over there.
Right.
Therefore, your lawsuit
Right.
has no claim to it."
There is definitely a history of that.
So that's, it's frustration, it's anger, but now that we have a platform to show our work, to show our worth, I guess it was kind of worth it. It's still something that we're still getting used to, this recognition. We still have to deal with the quote unquote, what do they call it, culture vultures.
Oh man.
But yeah, that's essentially what it boils down to. Our pain, our rich and layered history separates us from white creators.
Right. That definitely. I mean, we definitely put a lot of our experiences in a lot of our media. I mean, a lot of it is trauma. And I know people had a little bit of a kerfuffle. What was that, a couple months ago? They were like, stop with the Black trauma things and whatnot.
Trauma porn, as they called it.
Trauma porn, right? And there is something.
The problem
to
is
that.
the trauma porn is coming from white people. White people are exploiting our pain and then creating
Right.
these products.
Which
Right.
is American.
We need to
Yep.
creatively channel that pain rather and stop letting them make the narratives. For God's sake, I mean, Brian, how would you describe Black creativity? You feel you're similar, or do you feel as though how would you see it?
I think it's a nuanced conversation. I think it's kind of hard to get into in
Mm-hmm.
certain respects. I think for the longest time, and even the way you worded the question originally, and this is
Mm-hmm.
not like any with no difference to you, just in general, right? The
Mm-hmm.
standard has been white creativity. So we originally talk about creativity, and then we talk about Black creativity.
That's
We
true.
talk about Latino creativity. We talk about Asian creativity, Indian, whatever other race, at least in America, because the standard, quote unquote, has so long been like white creativity.
Right.
I think that with what we do and being who we are, we do run the risk, and this is like a future risk, of placing ourselves in a box. When we talk about something like Get Out, an amazing horror thriller movie, it is obviously the Black culture owns that.
Right.
But if we relegate it to only being a Black creative, then it's dismissive of the world audience that it captures and it needs to continue to capture. When we run the risk of putting ourselves in boxes sometimes, if we simply talk about Black creativity, we also run the risk of people who make characters that their only merit is Black. Support me because I made this Black character. Yeah, but that character's trash, bro. Like it wouldn't matter if it was white, Black, whatever, right? Like
it's about Black characters.
Yeah, right. Make good products.
Buy this melanin T-shirt.
Art.
This $50 melanin T-shirt.
Right. So yeah. So it's about actually what we do. You know, I love and I would never give up being a Black creative. But if I capped myself that that's all I am, or that's all I would let the world see me as, that would be a disservice to every other Black creative. Because at some point, we need to not only be Black creatives, we are just creatives. We have been the creative and driving force in America since America's inception. So, you know what I mean? Like, we're not, if we go back to the 50s, like SC was saying, like, you know, you look at something like Stormy Weather, it's got some of the best dance performances in history. You know, you'll never see that many great dancers and performers and entertainers on one stage ever again.
Right.
At the same time. But it was something that we did that was amazing. And again, it belonged solely to Black culture. But again, we've got to open up that wider audience and not be exclusive with it. Because I think that's one thing that if we talk about white creativity and white media has done is whether we like it or not, they've never been exclusive. They let you see all of their media. They give you all of their things. Why? Because then it becomes the standard. That's what you're used to. And we need to, as we push our creativity forward, and others do as well, Latinos, like I said, and Asians and everybody else does as well, we need to be as accepting of that and accepting of those things so that the paradigm shifts from the standard being white creativity. Without saying white, we just call it creativity, and then everybody else is diversity. You know?
Everybody else mixed in, you know, like everybody else has a say into it, and that's kind of what, you know, will be hoped for. Hopefully, you know, there's more Black and people of color, you know, coming into the writing field too. So that's a lot of what I hope for, that our creativities aren't just seen as Black creativity, you know. So I do appreciate that opinion. George, what do you got?
So this is gonna be a tough one. Quick, give me the question again, because.
What do you define Black creativity as? Do you see your creativity as?
What do I define Black creativity as?
Yes, do
creativity owned by Black folks, essentially.
Do you see it as different than other POVs? Like how
do I see Black creativity as different from every other creativity?
Right.
Of course, because our experiences are a lot different than other people. Now, this is not a knock at other cultures at all, but we like Brian said, we were at the beginning. You know, we spread out. We have experiences that could be that can be told in various forms. Like, you can't say that about, like, you cannot. We have Black stories that you cannot just whitewash. But there are plenty of white stories that you can throw Black characters in, and you can be like, okay, yeah, there are Black folks living like that. There are, you know, Black folks that go through that. Right. So for me, what separates, and again, I really agree with the whole we can't be exclusive. But what I refer to as exclusivity is Black people, you already know this, we're not a monolith. We have various amount of stories, and they need to be told. and we can't just be we have to be very careful about what we put out as, okay, this is exclusive Black content, this is exclusive Black content, but at the same time we need to make sure that other folks know, hey, this is coming from Black creators, right? This is not knockoffs coming from white folks or this
Right.
over here. It's similar to Asian cinema, all right? Like you,
Oh, you definitely know you're watching an Asian film.
yeah, it's like when we had Ghost in the Cell, or I think that's what it's called, with Scarlett Johansson.
And you knew that was not an Asian film.
It wasn't made, even though Japanese folks didn't really have a problem, of course. Why?
Yeah, no, of course not. Yeah,
but
I'll let ScarJo play me in the biography.
But it's and
she can do it.
But look at it this way: a lot of people in this country, Americans, we look at live action anime adaptations as being a bad thing, because we just don't know how to do it, because we aren't associated with that culture. That's why when you have something like Kite, I'm not sure if you've seen Kite or Ghost in the Cell or all these other American anime adaptations, we miss the mark because we don't really care. But you look at anime adaptations from over there, like Gantz or what's the other one? It's a boxing film, but you look at those and it's like they're straight up from the pages. You look at Taxi Miike's Blade of the Immortal, it's like it was ripped straight from the manga, because they understand it. Even we go into how diverse Asian cinema is, you look at Old Boy, the Korean adaptation of the manga, of a Japanese manga. They can do that because they understand not only paying respect to people within the culture, but then giving it their own spin.
Right.
And I'll leave it at that, because I really want to go into how, Spike Lee had a chance with his adaptation of Old Boy, but again, he replaced the characters with white folks, and the only Black character in that movie was Samuel L. Jackson. And I'm like, yo, you could have told you could have had a Black American adaptation of Old Boy, and dealt with incest in in Black communities and all of that, but you chose not to. So
yeah, it is a lot of cultural misunderstanding. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. I really did appreciate this conversation. I feel like we expressed a lot of our cultural opinions here on Black creativity. You guys have any closing statements, Essie?
I appreciate being able to come here and to have these conversations. It's important to have them. It's possible to highlight the importance of Black voices without making an environment inhospitable to others. People have had the stage for a long time, and it is 100% okay for them to be quiet and listen for a while. Their white feelings be damned. And it's
I want a t-shirt with that. White feelings be damned.
Good hashtag.
That's gotta be a good one, actually.
Yeah, it's not from a place of from hate. It's from a place of love and understanding. I love my skin. I love where we are right now. I love being able to see so many Black creatives rise right now. That energy, we're like, yo, I'm trying to get like you. Yo, I'm not trying to get like you. That's what I see right here.
Right.
I'm trying to get like all of you. And it's beautiful, lifting each other up, especially when we just lost such an important king. For people to get together and for Black people to really to not be having a competition, because they want us to fight amongst ourselves needlessly, as if we can't all be doing our own things, be rising collectively, be collaborating when it's possible, and
exactly.
Just be like, hey, I see you over there. What you're doing is amazing. What can I do to help bump you and what you're doing? Even if it doesn't do anything for me personally, just to watch others rise and be happy for them when they succeed, and not take it personally, like just because your time hasn't come yet, and that kind of thing. Like everything that I see here, what you guys are working on, I can't wait to watch it happen and blossom, and to help promote it, and because that's important.
I appreciate that.
All of us succeeding is important. So
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate talking to you, man. Yes, we definitely need to have these conversations a lot. Just, getting the message out there that we are here. Malachi, you got any things to say in closing?
Yes. First off, thanks for having me, Trevor. I do
I
appreciate it.
appreciate it. No problem. Thank you for coming.
Of course, of course. I enjoyed the fellowship, the camaraderie. It's always refreshing, especially speaking to people who look like me.
Right.
Um, I'm here for the world building, for the new stories that we're going to share with the people, despite or no matter the medium that we choose to do it. Um, I'm happy. This is probably one of the very few things that was beneficial from this COVID-19. It was the renaissance of Black excellence. So, thanks again
Definitely.
for having me, and
Thank you.
we should do this more often.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll definitely have you guys back. I love talking to y'all. And then we should definitely talk more
Are
about
we
our
gonna have
projects
Melon
more
and
in depth.
Madre and Duran on the next one?
Oh, Duran's Eric. Yeah, of course. Like have those two back. I mean, I know they sat out, but the Toyota incident happened.
It felt weird without the whole family being here.
They're like a family.
Um,
Brian, did you have anything to say in closing?
Yeah, I'm gonna also say thank you. Obviously, it was a good time, and
Thank
I don't know. It's kind of it's good to get out of your vacuum and
you.
realize that people kind of share the same thoughts. Obviously, me and Malachi talk, daily, just as a form of business, if nothing else. But it's
Right.
good to get on there and see 3 and 4 and 5, and hear 3 and 4 and 5 other people that
Mhm.
that reflect your thoughts without knowing them, but no previous communication or whatever. And it's just beautiful, kind of to see that there is a strength in people being able to create, and there is a strength and a shared cultural unity, which is probably the best part. And again, what kind of shines in some of these projects is that cultural unity. That's something that can never be taken away from us. So I love being able to be in positions to showcase that to other people, because that doesn't go anywhere, and it just gets stronger and stronger. So thank you for having this platform where we could do that.
Appreciate that. I appreciate you coming on. I really do. I love talking to other people about their projects. Oh, George, did you want to say something? I usually don't let you say anything, but
Oh no, this was we need more podcast episodes like this. This was fantastic.
right.
It was great meeting you all. Like, I love meeting different Black creators, their experiences, how they came into their medium, bringing what they know,
Hmm.
and not just saying, okay, I have to have this, that, and the third because I'm Black. No, I'm going to put everything about me and what I like and make the product, something special to me.
Oh yeah, definitely. I enjoy just meeting new minds, seeing what everybody's thought processes is. Because coming up, like I was a weirdo. I'm still a weirdo, I guess. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
that's a good topic. That's a good topic of discussion to
Yeah.
have. Like, how were you as a Black nerd growing up? 'Cause
Right. I mean, hey, we can schedule that one too. Like I said, I was definitely weirder coming up. Like I thought my thoughts are crazy, like the things I come up with. But you see, like, like my background here, this guy turned it into an African wild dog. It's no different than, other creativity. You have her there with her water powers coming out of the water, and you have my man's with wings. And is that a metal arm or is this a um
Yeah, it is. It is. It
nice
is.
because
It's actually the sword of Excalibur, bro.
damn, that's actually cool as shit. Yeah, like like coming up, like a lot of the times, like I definitely didn't have people to talk with about these crazy ideas, that because it's like coming up in high school or whatever, you don't see a lot of people who want to share these things. It's like people want to sag their pants and go to parties, and I had a
I'm not co-signing that at all.
that's because you didn't go to fucking high school.
I had Black friends. We were nerds, but we didn't act like that. So
Yeah. Like I
like,
connected a lot.
Chill with the stereotype.
No, but I actually connected with the fighting game community, and that was basically where I first felt like more at home to be weirder as opposed to other spaces. And then, since then I've gotten way more into comics and everything else there. It is great to talk to other creatives and just know that you're not alone out there as a creative and as a Black creative. So I appreciate you all for being on here. This was Black Medium. I'm the host, Gold Will, and as always, my co-host,
Electronic Jack, aka Linwood Storm, aka the Mac with the facts of Black Grindhouse.
how do I let you do this? And we will see you guys on the next episode later.
Easy.
All right.